Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be making Valentine's Day cards using Paper Rose Studios Sending Hugs collection. I have the 6x6 paper along with the coordinating die cut pack. I'll show you the paper collection first. There are 18 double-sided pattern papers, super cute designs. We have pinks, blues, grays, and a little bit of black. Several of the sheets have cut apart images, lots of adorable critters. Some of them are driving cars, others are sitting in different mugs. There aren't any sentiments other than the sentiment included on just a few of the cut aparts. There's love, be mine. So I will be bringing in some sentiment stamp sets to use for my cards. The cards I'll be making today will be going to the residents at a nearby retirement home, and I think the cute images will make them smile. And here's a look at the coordinating die cut pack. It includes 4 A5 sheets, and no fussy cutting is required. All of the images will simply pop out. They're only attached by a few small tabs. After I pop all of them out, I do use a pair of scissors and trim off that tiny tab. I like the clean, finished look. If you are interested in any of the products I use in this video, I do have links in the description box below. This is an older collection, but it is still available. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. This is a very simple card design. I selected this pattern paper with 2 little bears riding a hot air balloon. This is a full scene design. I cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I really didn't want to cover up this beautiful pattern, so I'll simply be adding a sentiment. I'll first layer it on some pinkish red cardstock, put adhesive on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. For a sentiment, I'm adding Happiest Valentine Wishes. I've already stamped it on a sentiment strip die cut, and I'll layer it on a scallop sentiment strip die cut. After layering the 2 pieces together, I'll put Barely Art glue on the back and adhere the scallop sentiment strip at the bottom of the card. I'm placing a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. For a final finishing touch, I selected 2 of the heart die cut pieces, and I'll adhere them in the upper right hand corner. So there is my finished card. I made 2 featuring the hot air balloon and 2 cards featuring the pink pickup truck that's bursting with red and pink hearts. On that card, I added the sentiment, "You are loved." Many of Paper Rose Studios collections include those full sheet designs, so it's always fun figuring out a way to use them for an A2 size card. For card design number 2, starting off by doing a little bit of ink smushing. The ink color I'm using is Catherine Pooler's Quartz. It's a very light pink color. I pressed a little bit of ink on a silicone mat, spritzed it with water, then pressed my paper right on top. And I'll be using that piece as the image panel. So I'll set it aside for now to dry, start working on the card. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Cards TV. It's sketch number 58. For the background of my card, I'm using a light tone-on-tone plaid design. I'll layer it on some red cardstock. For the narrow strip on the left side, it features lots of pink mugs. I layered that piece also on the same red cardstock. So once my image panel is dry, I'll put adhesive on the back, layer it on the same red cardstock. For the cardstock layer behind the mug pattern paper piece, I added an additional 1/8 of an inch. But for that background layer and the layer behind the image panel, I added an additional 1/4 of an inch. Wanted that wider border. The card sketch does include measurements. For the mug paper, I did reduce that piece by 1/8 of an inch. Wanted to make sure to have enough space around it to include that cardstock layer. Before adhering the image panel down, I'll put a scrap piece of cardstock on the right side, just in the area where it goes off of the mug pattern paper. I did place a couple of acrylic blocks on top for some added weight while the glue dried. I selected this adorable lion sitting in a red and white mug. I did put foam dimension on the back. I have small and large foam squares from scrapbook.com. These are their 1mm thickness. For a sentiment, I'm adding XOXO, stamped it with red ink, cut it out using a coordinating die, and this stamp set is from Jaded Blossom. For embellishments, I'm using some mini circle peel-offs from Love from Lizi. This is the silver mirror color. I'll put 3 of the largest size circles in the upper right-hand corner and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. So there is my finished card. I made 2 using the same pattern paper and another 2 cards using a different pattern paper. For one of the cards, I added the narrow strip on the left side simply because the little critter was facing left. I think it flows more naturally that way. Now moving on to card design number 3. With all of the fun cut-aparts that are included in the paper pad, I really wanted to feature several of them. So I decided to keep 4 of them grouped together, didn't cut those down any further. I'll layer those on some red cardstock. For the background of my card, I'm using the white and pink polka dot paper. I'm adding a 2-inch strip of the tone-on-tone pinkish plaid paper. For a little bit of separation and shine, I'll put a Love from Lizi peel-off on the top and bottom of that plaid paper. This is the red mirror color in the pinstripe style. Since I'm covering up the very center, I was able to use some smaller scrap pieces. I'll layer the background piece on red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. Before adhering the 4 cut-apart image piece, I'll first add the scrap cardstock pieces above and below where it goes over that wide strip in the center of the card. That way it doesn't dip down at the top and bottom. Now I'll put adhesive on the back and add this panel in the center of the card. For a sentiment, I'm adding Happiest Valentine Wishes. This is the same sentiment I used for the first card. I've already glued together the sentiment piece with the banner piece. I will be popping it up with foam dimension, but first I'll add some scrap cardstock pieces on the right and left side. And I'm putting 2 scrap pieces on each side. Once those are attached, I'll put foam dimension on the back using the 1/4 inch foam in the 1mm thickness, and this is by scrapbook.com. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment in the center of the 4 cut-apart images. And I decided for the first 2 cards not to add any embellishments. For the other 2 cards in the same card design, went with a horizontal style. I didn't use the sentiment banner piece. I felt it was a little too large and covered up the images. And for embellishments, I used some more mini circle peel-offs, this time in the silver color. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from OWH. This is number 219. I selected 2 pattern papers for the background. The mug paper will be that top piece, and the narrow strip at the bottom, I'm using this fun heart design. For the background of my card, you'll only see a tiny bit of it. Decided to use some craft cardstock. I'll add the heart paper at the bottom, layer the mug paper on red cardstock, then adhere that piece above the heart strip. Across the card, that narrow strip using more of the red cardstock. I did put some clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that narrow strip. Now I'll layer the background piece on the same red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. This is one of my favorite card sketches. The circle element is perfect for adding an image or sentiment. If I have narrow strips of pattern paper left over, I like to add them on the inside of the card just for a little extra detail. I used Paper Rose's Stitch Circle die set and some white shimmer cardstock for the circle. I'll put Barely Art glue on the back and adhere the circle on the right side. And inside that circle, I'm adding this adorable little penguin inside the red and white heart mug. I did pop it up using more foam dimension. For the 3 circles on the left side of the card, instead of circles, I'm adding 3 of the heart die cut pieces. And I also popped those up using foam dimension. For this card, I'm not adding a sentiment. Later, I will stamp one on the inside. For a little extra detail on the hearts, I'm using a white gel pen and adding 3 teeny tiny dots. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. For the last 2 cards, I used the black heart paper and 2 different color plaid designs at the very bottom. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 49. For the background panel, using this gray and white heart pattern paper, it's dark at the bottom, gets super light at the top. For the narrow strip at the bottom, using the white with black heart paper, I cut it just a tiny bit wider, so I'll flip it over, use a pair of scissors, and trim off the overhang. For a little bit of separation and shine, I'll add a Love from Lizi peel off along the edge of that heart paper. This is the clear with silver overlay in pinstripe style. On the top, I used the narrowest width, and I thought I had one more strip in that width, but I didn't, so at the bottom, I'm using the medium width. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on some red cardstock. For one of the rectangle pieces, I'm using the white with pink polka dots. Layer that piece on red cardstock. Put Barely Art glue on the back and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. Now I'll layer the background piece on craft cardstock. And I'll layer it one more time on some white shimmer cardstock. You could just use the white card base, but that little bit of shimmer adds some lovely detail. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For the second rectangle piece, using another cut apart, this sweet little bear holding a heart balloon with the sentiment for you. He's also holding some love happy mail, so I'm assuming it's a little Valentine. I'll layer that piece on red cardstock. And before adhering it down, I'll put some scrap cardstock pieces on the left side and a tiny piece on the right side. Then I'll put Barely Art glue on the back and adhere the cut apart image on the left side of the card. For a little extra detail, I'm adding the bow die cut piece. I did pop it up using the large foam squares. I'll remove the release paper and add the bow at the top of the pink polka dot paper. For embellishments, I'm using more Love from Lizi peel-offs, this time the mini heart style in silver mirror color. Put 2 on the left side and 1 on the right side. So there is my finished card, and I was only able to make 2 since I'm almost out of pattern paper. I made one final card using the leftover scraps, although I didn't record the process. Selected 3 pattern papers for the background. For the image panel, I used some white shimmer cardstock, added a black piece underneath to look like a road, and this card features 2 bears in a pink car. So here's all that's left over from the paper pad, just 2 pieces. I still have quite a few die cut pieces. I may add them on the inside, or maybe I'll make some more Valentine's Day cards later. Now here's another look at the 19 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios Sending Hugs collection. I used the 6x6 paper and also the coordinating die cut pack. The pattern paper is also available in the 12x12 size, so if you prefer the larger size, that is an option. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Paper Rose is located in Australia, and they do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase them here in the US, and I have links for both locations listed below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.